An aerial inspection of the lake by Elcom and State Pollution Control officers this morning confirmed fears of a sizable spill. Diesel fuel being pumped from the Bayswater power station for use at Liddell power station in a backup gas turbine plant leaked from one of two 100,000 litre storage tanks late yesterday. The fuel seeped through a concrete retaining wall, entered drains and gullies and polluted the lake.
There's been a very small leakage from a containment area following that spill, and some small quantity of oil has gone to the lake from that point.
Quick overnight action to dam the spill and a favourable onshore wind has so far managed to reduce the spread of a slick into the 1,000 hectare lake, home to many species of birdlife. Road tankers have been used all day to sop up thousands of litres of the fuel before it too finds its way into the lake.
I am certain that no more oil is going to the lake at all.
State Pollution Control, MSB and Parks and Wildlife officers are setting up booms to hold back the spill. Birdlife within that cordon has suffered.
We're now in a clean-up operation where the Electricity Commission, in cooperation with those officers, are collecting some of the distressed and affected birds.
By distressed, you mean covered in oil?
They have some oil on their plumage, yes.
Elcom officials say they are equipped to deal with the spill, but will leave its course to an official inquiry.
This was a one-off event, and I would say it's probably 1 in a million that it's happened. As I say, the true circumstances will be found and reported upon.
Clean-up workers are now trying to beat a wind change, but the overall impact on the lake won't be known for weeks. Andrew Lobb for NBN News. "22-year-old Andrew Rusak is a final year plumbing apprentice at the Royal Newcastle Hospital. He won the award for an outstanding performance in the trade and is currently studying an advanced plumbing services course. Andrew hopes to start his own business or do consultancy and planning work. Nominations for all trade categories came from as far as Murwillumbah and south to the Central Coast. Donna Bradley from Newcastle and Angela Higgins of Cessnock shared a joint award for women's hairdressing. Julie Farriger, proprietor of Pandora's Hair Witchery, won an award for an employer encouraging excellence. Noel Murphy of Lismore was rewarded for an outstanding achievement in fitting and machining. Newcastle's brightest young tradespeople also topped the list in bread making, bricklaying, painting and decorating, panel beating, pastry cooking and refrigeration mechanics. A special encouragement award was presented to Megan Lewis for her work in the building industry during Newcastle's post-earthquake rebuild.
Riding small, choppy waves is a test of any surfer's ability and patience. But former state champion Terry McKenna has a secret weapon, a space-aged surfboard that could be invading the trenches of your local beach this summer.
It seems to me like it's improved my surfing about 10% in certain ways. It's allowed me to do sort of different turns on different parts of the wave.
The board is different from conventional designs in more ways than one. It is moulded from a high-tech graphite epoxy composite that makes it stronger yet lighter than a normal board. It also features what inventor Ray Cashmere calls a concave hydrofoil combination.
It's like a sort of like a hovercraft where the air comes in the two channels in the nose. It's got a vacuum chamber in the tail, and it's because it's sucking from the tail and air's injected into the nose, it accelerates on the flatter section in the middle. This causes like a hydrofoil effect, and the board actually accelerates, and it's probably everyone says it's a lot faster board to ride.
Ray hopes to begin exporting the boards in the new year. As for his test pilot, well, he doesn't know what makes it go so well, but he does know what he likes.
There's just so many new innovations in this particular design, not only the actual materials that are used, but also the actual shape and the theory behind it. I couldn't really put my finger on one of them, but I do know that it goes faster than a normal board, and when you've got speed, you can basically do anything, and anything looks good.
Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
The Newcastle Microcomputing exhibition is now in its 7th year. More than 25 computer companies have filled the Hunter building at the Newcastle University. As the name implies, microcomputers are getting smaller. This latest laptop model is a 12 MHz AT compatible. It's the same size as a desk diary, is completely portable, yet as powerful as computers many times bigger in physical size. The only limitation to how small these computers can get is the size of the human hand, which in turn limits the size of the keyboard. Organisers of this year's show say computers are a part of making Australia the clever country.
Computers can be used to either deliver instruction or, in fact, employers may wish to train their staff in the use or the utilisation of computers so that they work smarter rather than harder.
But apart from the serious business, much of the modern software is designed for fun. This machine makes a tough chess opponent and shows no mercy in the kill. Others turn the humble computer into a keyboard synthesizer. A feature of this display is the development in high-resolution computer screens. The images are limited only by the imagination. The exhibition runs until Saturday, and more than 15,000 people are expected through the doors. John Church, NBN News.
Peter Morris, thanks very much for speaking to us. Can you bring Newcastle up to date on what's the latest in Canberra? What's the latest in this development, or latest development on the Maritime Safety Authority?
Well, the latest position is that I have spoken to several of the Cabinet Ministers. I've spoken with my parliamentary colleagues from the Hunter, Bob Brown, Alan Morris, Eric Fitzgibbon, and as a result of those discussions, I have decided, as the chairman of the Federal Task Force on the Hunter, that I will lead a delegation to the Prime Minister as soon as a suitable time can be arranged for everyone, and with that delegation seek the support of the Prime Minister in having the government carry through its original decision of November 28 last year, the decision to establish the Australian Maritime Safety Authority in Newcastle.
When do you hope to see the Prime Minister?
The Prime Minister's in Japan at the moment. We can't get a date. One would hope that it will be towards the end of next week, but that's as best I can say at the moment.
Do you really believe the decision could be reversed at this stage?
I do. Whether we can get it reversed, that's the task ahead of us. But I just want to say we'll be leaving no effort aside in trying to get that original decision adhered to. We are at the stage where the people of the Hunter have given this government, on successive occasions, outstanding support. The establishment of the Australian Maritime Safety Authority was a deliberate decision of government, announced on 28 November last year. We put our shoulders completely behind it. We repeated our commitment to it. It means a great deal to the Hunter. Most of all, it means 200 new jobs in an area that we don't have employment very much. And as local members, we can't accept the decision not to proceed in Newcastle. And we'll do everything we can to ensure that the original decision now is implemented.
Can you remember any parliamentary precedent where party members have been so united against a cabinet decision of a government?
No, I don't remember any precedent, but that makes it all the more a case where, as representatives and as a community, we've just got to stick together the way that Newcastle can.
Have you had any feed at all from Cabinet on their reaction? Are they at all surprised? Are they at all aware of the anger that has been aroused in Newcastle?
I can tell you, Jim, that they're becoming very much aware of the anger that's being exhibited at home and the anger that's being exhibited by ourselves as representatives. We saw the establishment of the authority as a great achievement for the region. We saw it as a recognition of the excellence of the labour force in Newcastle. We saw it as a natural follow-on from the success of the Taxation Office that we established, which has become a model for the rest of Australia. And what we have seen in this episode, it's a very shabby episode. What we have seen is, from the day that the decision was announced, a grouping between the public sector unions down here, the people that were affected by the transfer, the Liberal Party, the National Party, and to a lesser extent more recently the Democrats, all united in doing everything possible to block the government carrying forward that November 28 decision. Now,
still, people are asking the question, well, who is running the country? If the government makes a decision, surely it has the power to carry that out.
It has the power to carry it out. There's been a reluctance within the department responsible to pursue the decision made by the government. There were bans put upon the handling of matters related to it as soon as the decision was announced, or very close after that time. All of those things helped to push back the timetable. And it's because the timetable was pushed back that there have been new costs that have come in that have added to the cost of the transfer and so enabled people to mount an argument against Newcastle. But look, this needs to be understood. The legislation to establish the authority is still in the Senate. It has to get through the Senate. The Liberal senators, the National Party senators, have expressed their opposition to the legislation, particularly if it goes to Newcastle. Now, what needs to happen is that the Liberal senators, the National Party senators and the Democrat senators have got to declare their support for Newcastle and their support for legislation. Otherwise, the legislation doesn't go through the Parliament and nothing happens.
That, of course, is being seen as another political issue. At the moment, the people of Newcastle, from our phone-in appear focused on one thing, and that is, of course, that the primary decision has come from the Hawke government. The Hawke government is the one that has decided not to put it in Newcastle. If it couldn't come here, that would be another battle to fight another day. But that first battle is the one that the people of Newcastle have focused on.
I understand that attitude, but I just want to make the point. Whatever we do as a delegation, whatever we do as a community, doesn't matter one hoot if the legislation doesn't get through the Senate.
Well, let's hope you're successful. Thanks for speaking to us, Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Jim. Doesn't matter one hoot if the legislation doesn't get through the Senate.
In a strongly worded recommendation that also serves as a thinly veiled warning to the Labor government of an electoral backlash, Trades Hall Council has demanded the removal of the minister responsible, that's Senator Bob Collins, from the shipping portfolio for his, and I quote, inept and insensitive handling of the affair. There's been a complete condemnation of federal cabinet's about-face on the issue and a demand that it change its mind. And there's also been a question asked of the federal government, and that's if it intends to keep humiliating the hunter in this fashion. There has, however, been some good news for the government, and that is that there is strong support from the trade union for the two sitting Labor members, that's Peter and Alan Morris. President Dennis Nichols has been elected to attend a meeting with the Prime Minister that's been arranged by Peter Morris sometime next week.
For the past 4 years, Adamstown Rosebuds have been crowned premiers but have lost the last 3 grand finals. Their opponents tomorrow, the Western Workers Bears, were victorious in last year's decider 1-0. Rosebuds went straight into this season's grand final with a convincing 3-0 thumping of West Wallsend in the major semi-final. Rosebuds on that occasion were awesome and never gave Westie a look in. They combine well all around the park and have a more than capable custodian in Steve Dorman. The Bears dominated the preliminary final last week against West Wallsend to march into the grand final with a 2-0 win. The danger man that Rosebuds will be keen to close down is Tony Beckett, who was in fabulous form against Westie. He is a busy player who has tremendous skills on the ball and can score a goal or two, as was shown last week. Many pundits are tipping this match, which gets underway at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, as one of the best tussles seen for a long while, with a result an each-way bet.
Shooting around at the Broadmeadows Stadium today, Michael Johnson was at his deadly accurate best. He'll need to maintain that form tonight if the Falcons are to finish a wretched season on a high note.
It's been a disappointing year for us, win-loss wise. So, we're building to next year now. That's all we can do. If we can get a win tonight, that'll carry on into next year. Our crowds finish the year, all they remember is the win.
But it promises to be a tall order. The Illawarra Hawks have one of the most potent offensive lineups in the NBL, and if the Falcons relax for a moment, they'll find themselves facing a hefty deficit. Johnson has pinpointed Hawks centre Storman Norman Taylor as the man the Falcons have to stop. Fortunately for Newcastle, lanky forward Neil Turner has shown in the past he's got what it takes to nullify the Taylor factor, and his captain is hoping for a repeat performance.
Well, Neil's had a great week at practice. He really has lifted his effort and his intensity, I should say, and he's had a really good week. So we're looking forward to a big contribution tonight from him. And if he can do a good job on Norman Taylor like he did last year, then we're in with a real show.
When Senator Graham Richardson began taking calls on 2HD's open line today, it quickly became apparent he'd stepped into a lion's den. Caller after caller challenged the Senator on the government's failure to deliver the promised Maritime Safety Authority to Newcastle. Submarines and frigates got a mention, but it was Newcastle's Lord Mayor who added another issue to the list of perceived broken government promises. Another caller to attack the Senator was former Labor Minister Charlie Jones, who labelled government excuses a lot of rubbish. Senator Richardson said later he would take the message back to Canberra.
I think Newcastle's very angry, and certainly that's a message that I got in taking calls on Talkback Radio on 2HD this morning. It's a message I've got to take back to my colleagues in Canberra, and I will.
Is there any chance that decision might be reversed?
For the decision to be reversed, you would have to prove that the figures upon which the decision was based were wrong. It'd be pretty difficult to do that, because I think the figures have been pretty carefully prepared. But nonetheless, we'll make those figures available to people, and if they could show that they were wrong, then certainly I, for one, would be prepared to have another look.
Wouldn't you concede that if the public service wants to come up with a set of figures to prove anything, they can do it?
No, I just wouldn't ever concede that.
Adding to the Labor revolution over the issue, Newcastle Trades Hall Council last night passed a resolution condemning Cabinet and the responsible minister. The strongly worded resolution expressed lack of confidence in the minister and criticised him for his attitude in media interviews. The resolution also made an unequivocal call for an inquiry into the relocation budget, a call that has been refused by the minister. At a news conference yesterday, Dawn Fraser called for a ban on cheap, semi-automatic, military-style Chinese rifles. And many serious gun enthusiasts have endorsed her opinion, that the weapons are ill-suited as sporting rifles.
But the issue of the potential killing power of these and similar military-style imports has been simmering for years. 4 years ago, NBN News revealed that a Chinese Type 68 assault rifle being sold cheaply in Australia could be converted in seconds to a fully automatic machine gun. The anonymous gun enthusiast who brought the story to us had tried to warn authorities of the danger of such weapons, but the only reaction he got from police was to have them raid his home with guns drawn. Although federal and state authorities would never admit to making a mistake in allowing this particular version to be imported, it was later the subject of a recall and many were confiscated. However, it used the same ammunition and is a close relative to more than 20,000 cheap Chinese imports which have flooded the New South Wales market since. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
Formerly the home of Newcastle's Grace Brothers store, this site was cleared like so many after the devastation of the earthquake. The plan is to build a 15-storey office complex fronting Hunter Street with room for 140 cars and a mini parking station off King Street. More than 13,000 square metres of prime office space would be created in a key part of the inner city. That's a development about the same size as the Newcastle Tax Office. The proposal meets Council's height and parking codes and is not expected to meet any obstacles in getting approval. Developer Tony Doherty was planning a 3-storey development on the site, but the government's claim that Newcastle lacked suitable office space convinced him a bigger development was viable if government was willing to commit itself to the city.
It's government-led. Private enterprise will follow, but they're not going to open huge offices in Newcastle. They follow behind the government. That's what, even with the